Welcome to the Pursuing Points podcast, where it's all about the pursuit of credit card points and miles today so that you can travel the world free of charge tomorrow. And now, your host, Peter Foti.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 13th Pursuing Points podcast. I'm your host, as always, Peter Foti, and I'm joined today again for the second time with guest AJ Krow. AJ, how are you?
Doing great, Peter. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, man. So I guess the last time we spoke to you was at the end of September. Do you want to, well, I guess first, for our guests that maybe are not aware, just tell us who you are. And then for the guests who may have listened to the previous show, you can just kind of tell us what you've been doing since we talked to you back in September.
Yeah, so that was actually shortly after I launched my website, mileagemayhem.com, Twitter and Instagram, same Mileage Mayhem. And I think it's similar type stuff that, you're talking about. A lot of people are talking about, credit cards, points, miles, the whole thing, figuring out, how to hack that. Hack those expensive fares and expensive hotel rooms with just a swipe of some plastic. Although I guess since then a swipe of some metal in more cases than plastic. But yeah, just been doing the same thing and have started to travel for work a lot more. So been able to see more of this. I should say more of the benefits firsthand. I've actually brought in a couple new credit cards over that period of time, so we can get to that later on, I think. But just more of the same grind that we're all doing, just trying to rack up as many points and miles as we can.
Yeah, for sure. I will. I'm going to have links to all of AJ's social media and websites in this podcast as well in the show notes, so everybody should check him out. So you mentioned the work travel, and I think that's what's interesting about this whole thing is that you have like a few different types of people where you've got like these professional bloggers like the Points Guy and 1 mile at a time, and they're just like they travel for pleasure, but they do it at such high volume that it could be for business. And then you've got like the straight business travelers who are like really a lot of segments but little mileage, and then you have like kind of the rest of us where we try to like do a lot of travel, but it's not necessarily all reimbursed. So I guess, what has the biggest change been for you as you sort of transition to more work travel? I know you said you got to see more of the benefits. Like, what exactly are those?
Yeah, so it kind of coincided with my flip over from Hilton. I think we talked about in the last podcast. I was Hilton Diamond for all of last year and saw virtually no benefit from it. I don't think I got a single upgrade or anything like that. I think Hilton's it's a great program for its breadth and how many options you have and the diversity of the portfolio. But if you're really looking to get treated like an elite and get those, because we're all really looking for the big benefits. We're looking for upgrades. We're looking for, the lounge access. We're looking for all that. And I didn't really get any of that from Hilton. I flipped over to Starwood and Marriott since, or after their merger, since I was able to get gold on both of those, originally through the Ritz credit card. And then when they linked, I flipped that over to Starwood. And so I've had, I think about 6 stays with Starwood and have gotten upgraded on every single one of them. Okay. So yeah, so it's been great to be able to really see what the Starwood program has to offer. It's, I think, again, we talked about last time, we know that it's the most valuable currency for its flexibility and its partners, but, it's a limited portfolio. So, I started off, I've been going back and forth to Atlanta a lot, and they've got, that's a pretty Starwood heavy city. Unfortunately, my last trip, Orlando, didn't have one, but they had Marriott properties that I was able to stay at. Again, we're kind of in that middle ground of gearing up for the eventual merger to be finalized. So I think a lot of people are kind of hedging their Starwood with Marriott and those kind of things. But I'll tell you, it's also been, the more I've been traveling, it's again more of a, it smacks you over the face that no matter how much you travel, there are so many people that travel more. And like you said, you've got those high volume business travelers. And again, my main route's been DFW to Atlanta, which is, probably one of the more business heavy routes. And obviously DFW is a very, elite, especially because I fly American. So I'm in a great spot because I can get everywhere nonstop. I'm in a horrible spot because it is almost impossible to clear that upgrade list unless I'm traveling to, God knows where at God knows when.
Is it easier for you to get upgraded when you're flying from Atlanta to DFW?
So I've actually been tracking all of my upgrade requests and which ones have been cleared. And in 12 segments, let's just take the Atlanta ones, in 8 segments, I have been cleared twice. One of those was coming from Atlanta to DFW on a very late, on like a 7:25 flight. And then my other one was DFW to Atlanta on a Sunday. So basically, I'm not getting anything.
And now, just for context, what status do you have on American? I'm
gold on American.
Okay.
Got an outside shot at being able to get platinum this year. So we'll see. But it's, on these flights, especially this route, I'm counting, I think the average I've counted is 33 executive platinums on each DFW to Atlanta flight.
Oh, wow.
Which is unbelievable. My brother and I talk, he travels for work all the time. We talk about it all the time. Getting executive platinum to me is just almost mind blowing.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. So, I mean, I fly Delta, and so like I reached was it platinum for 2017, and I fly mainly out of RDU, Raleigh Durham, but most of my flights connect through Atlanta.
Right.
And so for me, it's the same thing in Atlanta. You get there, and every single person is a diamond medallion. The upgrade list is a mile long, and even as a platinum, sometimes if you're flying out of Atlanta, you're going to be halfway down the list. And
I think I was reading on Twitter yesterday. I think maybe Zach Honig may have retweeted it from Points Guy. We're seeing it everywhere. They said there was someone on United that was a United 1K, and I think they were like 10th or 11th on their upgrade list. Yeah. And it's just it's crazy, and it also gets harder for people like you and me that are, because fares have gone down, which, great, but we have, all 3 programs, we've got minimum spend requirements. And then, now after Americans change, everything's off of the fare. So, it doesn't matter how far you're going, unless you're racking up segments and, connecting on everything. It's a tough world out there for us.
So that's interesting. I want to talk about 2 things. One, so obviously just a comment is that like Delta, when you check in on their mobile app, they automatically give you an option to upgrade usually, and then upgrade can range in price. I mean, I've seen it as low as $10 and then say upwards of say $100. Does American do something like that when you go to check in? Do they sort of upsell you that upgrade?
I have seen it sparingly.
Yeah.
They give you an option. So obviously, I assume if it's generally not in a very elite heavy route where they're not clearing, they haven't cleared many executive platinums or platinum pros. I've only probably seen it 5 or 6 times. But whenever I book mine, I put I use my upgrade stickers for, the 500 mile upgrade stickers for all of those, but rarely have I seen the option to upgrade.
Really? Yeah. See that, because that's the thing for me. I mean, I had it happen to me. I was coming back to RDU. My flight was out of Atlanta. I had a window seat in their Economy Plus or whatever. And, I went to check in and they were like, you can buy an upgrade for $100. And at that time, there were still, I think, 6 seats in first class. And so I was pretty confident I would get up there. But then as the day drew near, I mean, there was like maybe 2 or 3 seats left. And obviously I kept moving down the list. So it just seems like, they just keep selling these upgrades as upsells. Just because obviously they'd rather make $100 than, quote unquote, give it away to an elite, even though, I mean, the elites run their business.
Right.
So that's kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
So The next thing I want to talk to you about is, so you mentioned that American went revenue-based, which means that United, American, and Delta are all revenue-based now. And I want to get your opinion on like how you feel about that in general, because I think I might be in the minority in the sense that I prefer this method, and I only prefer it because I think it helps to thin out the herd a little bit. But I want to get your thoughts on, how you see it playing out and just in general, whether or not you're a fan of that process.
Yeah, and it's hard because, on the one hand, for me, my automatic thought when any company makes a change like this is they're not doing it to make less money. So there's a reason that they're doing it for their own gain, and and that's completely fine. I wanted to get mad at American doing it, but hey, they were the last ones, so we should be happy about it. We knew they were going this way anyway.
Yep.
Where I, it puts even more pressure on getting some level of status.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm getting 7 points or, 7 miles per dollar spent as a gold member. Regular Advantage members get 5. Just another quick side note. If you don't have an Advantage or, a mileage account with every airline and, an account with every hotel, pause the podcast and go do that right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still surprised by the amount of people that don't have that. And again, they're probably not listening to this podcast, but yeah. I digress.
Right.
Going revenue based, again, it's if you're a business traveler and, money doesn't matter as much, it's great for them. For people like us, that are mostly paying our own way, or, again, I'm flying out of DFW. The best thing about DFW is I can get anywhere nonstop for pretty cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Well, nowadays, if I'm going up to, even a flight to New York or, up to the Pacific Northwest, it's even, if I can get there cheap, I can find a $200 round trip ticket, but, I'm not going to earn as many miles on that ticket. But, also it does make premium travel, I think, a little bit more attractive. And it's something that I've written about before. And, it's to not be scared off from flying first class.
Right.
You wind up making up way more in the elite miles that you accrue that it winds up becoming worth it. I think, honestly, the bigger issue than just going revenue based is the minimum spend requirement, because it's a lot of money.
Right.
And again, because airfares are being depressed, they again are, it makes it a little bit harder to get to that. I mean, even spending $3,000 on airfare, for gold for 50,000 or 25,000 miles may not seem like much, but that's if you're paying all your travel out of pocket,
yeah,
that's tough.
No, I totally agree. I think what's interesting right now with American is that they've yet to offer any sort of waiver based on credit card spend.
Right.
So I guess I should qualify the statement I made previously in that, I like the program in the sense that for Delta, we have the Delta Platinum as well as the Delta Reserve, and if you spend the $25,000 on that card, then the minimum spending is waived across all tiers of status.
Right.
Which is pretty interesting. And then, of course, with those cards, you have the additional benefit of earning the MQMs, which is part of the reason I'm even able to earn the status in the first place. So do you think that American is going to come out with a waiver this year?
Yeah, I think so. They just came out with their first new card with Barclays, their Aviator Red card. So for your listeners, a little background, Barclay and Aviator used to be the issuer of U.S. Airways dividend miles credit card. So they just relaunched that program. I was actually able to get mine approved in December. I think they really started it in January, but all they have is kind of the entry level version, lower annual fee, $95. And it's basically the exact same as the Citi Platinum Select Advantage Platinum Select card. But I have a feeling that Barclays premium cards, I think the older one for US Airways was the silver, I believe. But I assume that Barclay will come out with something this year that has that. And then I would also assume that the Citi executive card, kind of as an answer to that, will probably add that into to their premium card offering as well. Probably along the exact same lines as the Delta one that comes with the spend waiver and then the EQMs as well.
Yeah, that's the executive platinum you're talking about.
The
one that comes with the EQM bonus, I think it is.
The Citi executive card. Yeah, right. They just called the Advantage executive card, which I've looked at because as a prestige card holder, that's been my way into the Admirals Club for the last 2.5 years, but that's going away in July. So I'm trying to figure out different ways to do that. And that executive card may wind up having to be the answer.
Yeah, the executive card, I'm not sure if you remember, this was a couple years ago, probably 3 years ago now. At one point, that card had a 100,000 mile sign-up bonus. I think you had to spend, I think it was close to 10 grand. But I mean, of course, that was the talk of the town when that happened. Now these days, that the 100K seems to be like sort of the gold standard for some of these new cards.
Yeah, especially they're getting a little more creative with how you get there. You know, the business platinum, advertising 100,000, but I think it was $10,000 in spend too. So I really do think that most credit card issuers now will be getting into that kind of space where the sign up bonuses are bigger, but they get harder with the spend. And then, because they're going to have to offer more perks because it's coming, it's a more competitive space now. So they're going to have to figure out, some way to make their money back up with that, at least I think.
Yeah. And I'd like to get your thoughts on this because I feel sort of the same way about some of these new policies as I do about the revenue-based program. So, for Chase, we've got 524. Citi has that limit of I think it's 135,000. Right. And then Amex has, you can only get once per lifetime. But I think what's good about that is that, we don't like it when they devalue our points.
Right.
And yet we continue to try and when I say we, I just mean sort of the points and miles hobbyists collectively. Yeah. We don't like it when they devalue the points, but we continue to try and game the system. You mentioned that US Airways card, the Barclays from back in the day. That was one of those cards where, that was like the original churn and burn because you could sign up for 2 or 3 of those in a day. And people would get, a dozen of those cards. And it's like, well, you can't really do that and then be upset when they devalue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think for me, it's, I certainly don't like it, quote unquote, but I understand it and I think it'll help us in the long run to have some of these restrictions. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have a hard time. I try and always bring myself back to center and remember, as much as I want to say that it's, and we think automatic, I think the people in our little community, I think we at times are a little elitist and egocentric in that we assume everything is about us. Mm-hmm. Because after hearing all those limits and all the restrictions and everything, I took a step back a while ago and said, wait, how can I get, we have to remember that credit card is debt. Mm-hmm. So yes, we as a community are very responsible, with what we put on credit cards. We pay our credit cards off. We know the value of all that. That's great, but we are a very small minority of people. Mm-hmm. Whereas, look at all the studies and stuff that come out. Credit cards are a major problem for a lot of people, and there's a lot of debt on these cards. Right. And so that's when I started looking at these not as restrictions on us, mm-hmm. where they're mad at us for accruing points and miles. Because remember, for a credit card company, they want swipes. They want transactions. That's how they're making their money. So I keep instead looking at it as, no, a credit card company doesn't want to issue 10 credit cards to one person, have, $100,000 or $80,000 in available credit to that person, have them run all those up, and then boom, they're on the hook for all of that. So I just stopped looking at it as, an indictment on us and them trying to hurt us. But I think you're exactly right. And I hadn't thought about the way that you just mentioned that, we can't have our cake and eat it too. Like the Alaska card, I've signed up for that 3 times already. And, we've already seen Alaska devalue some of their partner, especially Emirates. And, are we going to be disciplined in our approach collectively, or are we just going to churn and burn? And if we do, they're going to have to adjust. Because again, the banks are there to make money. Their credit card issues are there to make money. That's their number one priority. We saw with the reserve that, that wound up costing them a lot of money in the first year, which, it seemed at the time like when they issued that card, it was basically just going to be a loss leader to just pull some business away, and they bank on, revenue down the road. But no, it's not a surprise. I think it's a good thing, and it's good to harness, and rein in some of these people who are a little more careless with their credit cards than we are.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Yeah, I think you just have to be cognizant of all that's happening. And, like you said, right, we are not – it's not just all about us.
Yeah.
So I did have a few other questions, but I think I want to shift and focus here. We got about 10 minutes. I want to focus a little bit on 2017 and talk about, kind of what we think is going to happen. So 2016, obviously, there was a lot of fireworks, especially, the most, I think, recognizable was the Sapphire Reserve from Chase, which got all sorts of media attention and whatnot. And, Amex sort of stepped up a little bit with the 5 points per dollar on airline with the Amex Platinum. But what do you think could be, what is one of those like things that you're looking forward to that could be like a big thing in 2017?
So I don't think Amex is done with the Platinum. At least I'd hope not. So I have the business Platinum card, and it's been great. And their big change to the business Platinum card was a 50% point rebate on redemptions for your designated airline, and then also for any first or business class travel. So that's made that card really, really strong for redemptions. Obviously, it's still not an everyday spend card, unless I think they also did for purchases over $5,000. It's double points, I believe. But we saw the 5 points for the Platinum card. Again, the Reserve kind of set the tone, and even the Prestige card for the benefits that they're getting rid of this year, it's still a strong card with, it's $450 annual fee, but you still get the 4th night free benefit, which even with the tweaks they're making to it is still massive, can be potential massive savings if you stay 4 nights a lot. And the earning structure is big. So we've got 2 premium cards with everyday spend bonuses that the Platinum already hasn't, Platinum doesn't have, other than the 5 point bonus on airfare. So I think there's still going to be some tweaks to that. I think I'm still looking for Barclays premium card to see what that offers. I think that's definitely going to be a big player. And then seeing how, the partnership between Citi and American works, we could see that kind of fizzle out, and maybe the executive card loses their, I haven't heard of any negotiations between Citi and and American Airlines over the Admirals clubs, but that could be something that gets switched over. But, I think, and obviously, credits, the credits and both statement credits and, travel credits and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of the new norm now. So it'll be interesting to see how the kind of the lower level cards respond. Yeah. Because, and I did a post on this in December, I think, so I had my total outlay of annual fees, or at least on paper, was about $1,900. And then, after all my statement credits and, some Amex offers and all that stuff, I only wound up paying like $80 out of pocket for all that. So, I think as more and more people look to premium cards and see that, they're not the, this evil thing and scary thing that exists only for the rich and famous, I think that's going to put a lot more pressure on the mid-range cards to see how they respond. And, I think that could be another area where American Express comes in. So right now, basically, their travel rewards cards are, the Premier Rewards Gold card, which I still love and think is a great card for $195. But other than that, the Platinum, they don't have that answer to, the Sapphire Preferred or the City Thank You Premier, or those kind of cards. So I think it depends on what direction I think American Express wants to go. Are they just going to go all in on the premiums and leave, and just not be involved in that other kind of lower tier market? Or are they going to, bring something that can compete with, the people that have left the Preferred, or maybe just be looking for something different than the Preferred?
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen. I don't know if it's a Barclay product, but it's called Luxury Card. Have you heard of that?
No, I haven't.
So if you go to luxurycard.com, they've got 3 versions of this card. They've got a gold card, a black card, and a titanium.
Oh, that one. Yeah, there's a billboard on the way home from DFW about that. Yeah.
And a titanium. The gold costs, it's $1,000 annual fee. And the benefits are just totally ridiculous. Like, obviously you should never consider paying $1,000 for this card.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting to see what people will sign up for just to have the quote unquote luxury experience that you sort of alluded to with the rich and famous, right? It's like, people can sort of get tricked into signing up for stuff. I mean, like its benefits are, it's 2% cash back is basically the benefit.
Yeah.
With a $200 airline credit for $1,000, but the card is 24 karat gold plated. So I guess.
Everyone don't get these.
Yeah. But what's interesting for cards like this, and this is what I'm hoping for. I love it when these companies try to continuously one up one another. Because that works out great for the consumer, and there's just so much competition in like this financial marketplace right now for consumer credit cards, that I think we could see, sort of a continuation of what we saw in 2016 with, other companies, could be Barclays or Citi, coming out with these types of products that rival the Reserve or the Platinum. Because really before the Reserve, I mean, the Amex Platinum, for better or for worse, was, I think, largely regarded as like the sort of card. Whether or not it had all the benefits was whatever, but I mean, it was sort of like that was like the gold standard, at least in my opinion. And then the Reserve obviously comes along and sort of changes that. So one thing I want to do, I think what I want to end on is, so you mentioned you've got the Amex Platinum Business, and then I saw in your 2017 preview that you're planning on signing up for the SPG Amex for Business. Yeah.
I haven't done that yet. I actually wound up, I grabbed the Amex had an offer for, I don't know if you've seen the Blue for Business card.
I don't think
so. That one, I almost didn't believe it, but it's a 0 annual fee card, business credit card, that I'm getting 10 points per dollar on dining up to 20,000 points. And then 2 points per dollar on all purchases through, I think it's like March. So I jumped on that immediately, and that's been great for me. And then, so I've been waiting on the Starwood Amex. I also jumped on the Barclay, the Arrival Plus card. I hadn't had that before, and it was 50,000 mile or point, however you want to refer to those Barclay rewards, and it is an easy spend limit and $89 annual fee. So I went ahead and jumped on that, and those are and obviously the Aviator Red card. I think those are my only 3 new cards in the last few months, probably since we talked. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm still planning on doing the Amex for Business to get that Sheraton Lounge Club access, and then just try and maximize my SPG points.
And now, when you sign up for these business cards, are you using? So I know, like the Points Guy, and I've seen like 1 Mile at a Time. Again, they refer people to the business cards and tell them that they should just use, could be an eBay business or a blog or whatever the case may be, and then they use their personal social security number rather than an employee identification or employer identification number.
Right.
Is that sort of the similar process that you follow?
So I actually incorporated mine as an LLC. So I'm using an EIN number for that.
Oh, okay, interesting. And then, you referenced the Arrival Plus. That still is one of the cards that I recommend to people often. It has a great earning structure, and I think you get a 10% rebate on all redemptions.
So it's down. They lowered it to 5% for travel redemptions. Yeah, it's the one negative over the last couple of years, but yeah, it's still a good card. It's easy. I hadn't really focused on that card much over the last couple of years, but the more I looked at it, the flexibility it has is really, really strong, that you don't have to have the points in your account when you spend the money on, say you're booking and not really even for a flight, but just like a little thing like, transfers or, train or anything like that you can't use miles on. The fact that you can, I think it's up to 90 days after you can apply those miles for a statement credit. 50,000 miles winds up being worth $500 for travel redemptions. It's a really cool card to have.
Yeah, it's definitely it's one of those that I always used it for, like secondary travel, like car rentals, or like you said, train or cruises is a good example of something that you could use it for where you don't find value elsewhere.
Exactly.
I might have to look at that again in the future. And then, so this Blue for Business card that you mentioned, that is super interesting. I had never even heard of that.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it really offered virtually anywhere, and then just kind of out of the blue saw it and was like, geez, $10 or 10 points per dollar on dining, which is what I spend by far my most money on. Absolutely.
And what did you get for your sign-up bonus?
So the sign-up bonus was only 10,000 points.
Right. Okay, cool. That's still what it is. I was just checking to see if it had changed.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Well, listen, we just crossed 30 minutes. I feel like you and I could probably talk forever. So I'm sure in a couple months, maybe we'll have to get you back. Is there anything, so obviously we're going to link to all of your stuff, Mileage Mayhem, Twitter, Instagram, website, etc. Is there anywhere else that you want to tell people to find you, or anything else that you want to leave the audience with?
That's pretty much it. I mean, always say, if you have any questions, hit me up on Twitter, and we're always looking for inspiration on, for what to write about. And we are it's a little bit harder for people like us to remember, what the simple questions are, and the basic questions. And, we don't want to take anything for granted with people that are, new to this whole thing and want to learn. So, I always say any questions about this kind of stuff that you have are good questions, and, reach out to, anybody. I know some of the bigger guys may not respond on Twitter or, Instagram or anything, but, guys like you and I that are, we're still a little bit newer to the, to the website and the scene and everything, but, have, the same level of experience. We're more than happy to help and open up our arms to anybody that wants to get nestled into this community.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. All right. Well, thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you again in a couple months.
All right. Thanks a lot, Peter.
Take it easy.